Welcome back to the Schmidt Show. As you guys know, my name's Mitch,
My name's Sienna.
and this is episode 128 of our podcast. And today we're going to be talking to you about Frank Ocean's album called Blonde. And yeah, sit back, get your popcorn, maybe get a beverage, and just enjoy. To start off, let's get to know Frank Ocean.
Alright, so Frank Ocean was born on October 28th of 1987 on Long Island Beach, California, but was later raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. He was very influenced by a local jazz band and also his mother's extreme R&B collection. So in high school, he began doing music, and then after high school, he pursued music in LA as a ghostwriter. Basically, a ghostwriter is someone who writes music for a popular artist but doesn't get any credit, just seems like their music. He began doing it for Odd Future in 2010 with the popular creator Tyler, the Creator, and many more artists.
Yeah, so Frank Ocean is also known by many critics to be a pioneer of the alternative R&B genre. So this means he was one of the first people to significantly push the boundaries of what R&B can be, both musically and artistically.
To follow, Frank Ocean has had many accomplishments over his career so far. He's won 2 Grammys, a Brit Award, and also International Male Solo Artist. And yeah, there's many more to come, but that's what he's done so far.
And after a 4-year hiatus, he would then release the visual album, Endless, in 2016. His second studio album was Blonde and was released independently a day after. This was still a fantastic album and still continues to break records and just be such a good album for everyone to listen to, right? It was met with so much critical acclaim and debuted at the top of the US Billboard 200 and was ranked first of Pitchfork's best albums of the 2010s decade list.
You gotta leave, take down some summertime.
All right, Sienna, what is the album Blonde inspired by?
Great question, Mitchell. So the album Blonde is inspired by the Beatles, as in this album there is a song named White Ferrari, which has lyrics that say here, there, and everywhere. Also, in the Beatles, in their album Revolver, they have a song named Here, There, and Everywhere. So there's a lot of connection there. As well, the Beach Boys heavily inspired this album by their lush vocal harmonies, which is like a sort of layered sound experience, which is just like the Beach Boys.
Now, looking at the storyline of the album, this was heavily influenced by Frank's struggle with his masculinity, his struggle with loss, heartbreak, sadness, depression. These are heavily displayed in all parts of the album, and just makes the song so relatable. Everyone's experienced sadness, loss, heartbreak, stuff like that.
We'll let you guys prophesy. We gon' see the future first. Living so the last night feels like a past life.
Mitchell, I've been hearing this everywhere about albums. What is a foreword?
Great question, Sienna. A foreword is typically something to set the stage for something before it's presented.
Okay. So would Nikes be a good example of this in our album?
That would be a perfect example.
Okay.
So this is because Nike's, the sonic texture, referring to the overall quality of the sound, is very experimental, which is relevant to the rest of the album coming up afterwards. So this would result in being a very good opening.
So it would be a good tone setter, would you say?
Exactly.
All right,
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you. Okay, we've changed locations, but let's continue. So I believe, and critics as well believe, that Ivy is the most encapsulating and meaningful track on this album. So I'm not saying the other tracks aren't as meaningful on this album. I would just say, and critics as well, would say that Ivy just does a better job at portraying the themes in a way that's easier for listeners to understand.
The reason behind this is because how deep it actually delves into the emotional turmoil of his past relationships, expressing themes of betrayal, lingering effects of past experiences, and commitment. The song's overall lyrics and tone express feelings like vulnerability, but also uncertainty. This directly correlates to Frank Ocean's Blonde, the album Blonde, his themes and overall topics throughout the whole album.
I thought that I was dreaming. start of nothing. I had no chance to prepare, I couldn't see you coming. The start of nothing, ooh, I could hate you now.
The first part in Ivy is the lyrics, I thought that I was dreaming when you said you loved me. This just exemplifies themes of love and romance in his song, as well as the start of nothing. This resembles a beginning of a blank future for Frank Ocean and just his empty relationships that had nothing that came from it. Later on in the song, there's a part that says, if I could see through walls, I could see you're faking. This just hints to the fact that he's just been lied to and there's just been deception in his relationships, just kind of going over all themes. And yeah.
So the next lyric we're gonna talk about is How Much I Meant to You, meant it sincere back then. So in this lyric, Frank is reflecting on a past relationship and the emotions that were felt between the two in that time. And the back then refers to it being in past time and those feelings no longer being felt. Then moving on, we have, and then we started from nothing. Oh, I could hate you now. Reflecting on another past relationship and the emotional turmoil that was the result of that relationship. But now, Sienna, how would you think this next lyric, like what it means? There were things you didn't need to say. Did you mean to? Mean to?
So I believe this is expressing the harsh reality of him going through his past breakups and wondering if the things his former partner had said to him were meaningful and if they meant it, as well as the uncertainty behind things that they said. Did you mean to in those lyrics? I just believe that he doesn't know if they were in the heat in the moment or they were meant.
Also, just to add on, I thought the long instrumentals, just of the guitar and just all the other qualities of that, just resembled kind of him falling apart mentally, struggling with the loss of his partner. Just, you can kind of tell with the tone of the instrumentals.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah?
Yeah. All right, now let's listen to this album.
Let's do it. So, Sienna, what did you observe?
So I observed that the fourth track was actually a skit, just advice from his mom telling him to be himself and to know that you're good enough. And I think that is really showing more themes of just nostalgia and love, and that just like it's what this track is all about. Just having that little monologue in there is really important, just to be there for Frank Ocean.
Yeah, I would agree, Sienna. Something that threw me off, though, was probably the 10th track in the album, called Solo Reprise, and the track directly after that, called Pretty Sweet. Although they followed the themes and emotions of just like the rest of the album, they had an unusual beat and melody to them, but I think that although they're different, I think it just represents the different ways that Frank Ocean was dealing with this emotional turmoil when going through these phases in his life, stuff like that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
So something that I found in the album as well is that there is actually a song called Facebook Story.
I was just telling that I got this girl before, and I was together since 3 years, and I was not even cheating her or what, and Facebook arrived, and she wanted me to accept her on Facebook.
And really, it's just a story talking about how the narrator of this song, I don't want to say, Sébastien Alexandre Achok, a French electronic music producer, he's just talking about a story of his breakup with a girlfriend and how it all just occurred because he wouldn't follow her back on Facebook. It's just a story, and I think it just follows more of the theme of loss and relationship and love in this overall album.
Now, reflecting on what we just discussed in our observations, I would probably say that the overall theme of the album is falling in and out of love. What would you say?
I would agree with that. Yeah, it just kind of goes with the whole album. So, Blonde by Frank Ocean is placed at number 6 in Pitchfork's top 200 albums from 1996 to 2021, but we believe that it should be actually in top 3 and not at number 6, and these are our reasons why.
All right, as you can see, we're both in different clothes, so it's the next day, but let's go. So when looking at both of the Radiohead albums in the top 3 of Pitchfork's top 200 list, they both evoke emotions such as like eerie, haunting, beautiful, with also a blend of like anxiety and a sense of impending doom.
Yeah, and I would argue that like music in these two like albums make the listener feel emotions that really you don't want to feel, like mentioned before, whereas Blonde evokes like emotions such as sadness, nostalgia, and introspection, which most people search for in a song to feel closer to themselves. So in the reviews, while we were reading about Radiohead and their top 2 songs, which is OK Computer and Kid A on Pitchfork, we were reading, and honestly, they were just talking about subjective feelings, such as they believed this song was good because it made them remember a moment in their life, not talking about the instrumentals or anything specifically about the song, just the fact that they remembered it. I can give an example of this as when they were listening to OK Computer and listening to the song Airbags when they got into a car accident, and saying that this song just made them remember this moment, and that it was a moment from remembering this song kind of thing. But really, they're not talking about anything specific. So we believe if you can't say anything specific about a song, and the fact that you remembered it, maybe it's just not the best song. We can also argue that on the top listened to songs on Radiohead's profile on Spotify, none of these songs from any of the albums that are at the top, OK Computer or Kid A, are listed in their top 10. So clearly they just aren't listened to as much as their other songs, so why would they deserve top place when they're not really listened to? Whereas on the Blonde album, these songs from this album on the Spotify list for Frank Ocean, they are listed as 1, 2, and I believe 4. So these ones are clearly more listened to for each artist than we're putting up on our list. As well, I would say that a good point to make is that there are more Spotify monthly listeners for Frank Ocean than Radiohead. So why isn't that being reflected when more people are clearly listening to his music than Radiohead music, making his songs better to enjoy and more relatable for the listeners? People are just liking Frank Ocean more than they're liking Radiohead's music. So why isn't this reflected when we believe it should be reflected on Pitchfork's top 200 list?
Yeah, just to add on, in both the reviews for both the Radiohead albums, neither of them were talking about the songs. They were just talking about how they felt during the concert or how they felt wherever they were listening to it. They were talking about literally how the concert was actually produced and how the songs came across because of all the extra concert things, like everyone cheering, everyone singing along, but not really singing along because they never said that the songs were actually objectively good that way.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense if they wouldn't say anything about the actual instrumentals in the critics if the songs are just so great. I'd also like to add, according to the critics, these Radiohead songs were actually meant to just be a positive album, but they're actually known as being a dark, futuristic warning. So if you're going for one thing and people believe another thing, is it a good album? Because that's not what you intended.
Yeah, it
So,
just makes no sense on how that even happens.
yeah.
Like, it's total opposites.
Alright, so I would also like to mention, when just listening to both the albums myself, I listened to that all the beats were just very similar and there was just no variety in any of the album. And between both the albums, I couldn't listen to when they switched albums or switched songs even. They all sounded so similar. They could have all just been one song continually playing. So they're just reaching one target audience of people who just like that genre and not people who
that fall in between those and songs that go with Ivy, like they're slower paced, and then Solo Reprise, there's a couple other songs that are upbeat and more energetic, so you just get a better feeling. It keeps you engaged with the album, I find.
Yeah, and kind of a bit off this topic, Mitchell, but I'd like to add is that these albums from Radiohead were produced like a long time ago, I believe 1997, and it's just not following the trends of what new music sounds like and just what older generations like to listen to. So when making a very wide range of these timelines for the top 200 album, we should be thinking about the newer generations and what they like to listen to, because that's who's looking up the top 200 albums on Pitchfork.
Exactly.
So it just doesn't make sense to put something so early made that no one listens to.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the number 3 spot on the list now.
Okay.
Which is My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by
Right.
Kanye West. It's a very good album, don't get me wrong. I like it. There's a lot of good songs from there. But when looking into this, we found the top 200 albums of the 2010s decade list, and Blonde was ranked higher than My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. In fact, Blonde was ranked number 1, so it further just doesn't make sense why My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is ranked higher on the past 25 years list.
Yeah, and if they're that much more comparable, being 1 and 2, then why aren't we reflecting that on our next list? Because clearly they are at different levels, but so close, but at different levels, because 1 and 2 are very different places. Why wasn't My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy taking 1 if it's so much higher up on our top 200 list? It just isn't consistent on their basis, on their ranking basis. Yeah.
Exactly. It's an episode of the Schmitz Show, and we hope you learned a lot about why we believe Blonde should be in the top 3 on Pitchfork's top 200 list of the past 25 years.
Yeah.
And just have a great day.